A 7 months pregnant woman working night shifts at a roadside diner thought she'd escaped her dangerous past until the door swings open and the ruthless mafia boss she once loved walks back into her life. One look at her belly, and he knows the truth. Now he wants answers, he wants control, and he's not letting her go. This is a story of fear, obsession, and the terrifying power of love when the most dangerous man in the city decides you belong to him. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story reaches. Hot on Mosi, Mom. The fluorescent light above the kitchen window had been flickering for 3 weeks. Elena Hayes kept meaning to tell Lou about it, but Lou didn't give a damn about things that still technically worked, and Elena had learned not to waste words on men who'd already made up their minds about what mattered. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and fry oil that needed changing 2 days ago. Elena moved between tables with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd stopped seeing the people she served months back. Trucker at table 4 wanted his eggs over easy. Couple in the corner booth, fighting about money, always about money, needed a refill on decaf. The drunk businessman at the counter was nursing his third whiskey-spiked coffee and would leave a $1 tip on a $20 tab. She knew the patterns. She'd become a pattern herself. 7 months pregnant, and her feet had stopped fitting into any shoes except the ratty sneakers held together with duct tape. Her back screamed with every step. The baby, she tried not to think of it as him, tried not to give it a gender or a future or a name, kicked against her ribs like he was already fighting to get out of the trap she'd made of her body. The clock above the register said 2:47 a.m. Another 4 hours until dawn. Another 4 hours until she could drag herself back to the roach-infested studio apartment above the hardware store, where the landlord had stopped fixing the heat and she'd stopped asking. This was survival. This was what happened when you ran from a man like Adrian Viscari. Elena cleared table 7, stacking plates with the methodical numbness she'd perfected. The remains of someone's meatloaf special congealed in brown gravy. She scraped it into the bus tub, her stomach turning. Everything made her nauseous these days. The smell of food, the sound of Lou's voice, the weight of her own reflection in the bathroom mirror. She used to be pretty. She remembered that version of herself the way you remember a stranger you met once at a party, hazily, with the vague sense that you might have liked her if you'd gotten to know her better. That girl wore red lipstick and dresses that cost more than Elena now made in a month. That girl laughed easily and drank champagne like water and thought danger was sexy when it wore expensive suits and looked at her like she was the only thing in the room worth destroying. That girl was an idiot. The bell above the door chimed. Elena didn't look up. Someone always needed something at 2:47 a.m. Someone was always hungry or desperate or too drunk to know the difference. "Sit anywhere," she called out, her voice flat. "Coffee's fresh if you're generous with the word fresh." Footsteps crossed the linoleum. Expensive shoes, she could tell by the sound, solid, deliberate, the kind of steps that came from a man who'd never questioned whether the ground would hold him. Elena's hand stilled on the bus tub. She knew those footsteps. She'd memorized them in another lifetime, learned to hear them through walls and closed doors, learned to distinguish between his approach and everyone else's. Her body knew before her brain caught up, every muscle locking tight, every nerve screaming run. But there was nowhere to run. Not anymore. Not for months now. She turned slowly, the bus tub clutched against her swollen belly like a shield. Adrian Viscari stood in the center of the diner and the entire world seemed to tilt sideways. He looked exactly the same. 3-piece suit, charcoal gray, tailored so perfectly it should have been illegal. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in museums or nightmares, depending on who you asked. Sharp jaw, sharper eyes, the kind of handsome that made you forget to breathe until your lungs reminded you that beauty could kill you just as dead as a bullet. Behind him, 2 men in dark suits flanked the door. She recognized Marco, thick neck, dead eyes, the kind of man who followed orders and slept fine afterward. The other one was new. They all blurred together after a while, Adrian's soldiers. Interchangeable parts in a machine that ground up everything soft and spit out bone. Adrian's gaze locked onto her face, then dropped to her belly. The bus tub slipped from her fingers. It hit the floor with a crash that shattered the silence, plates breaking, forks scattering. Lou shouted something from the kitchen, but his voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. Adrian's expression didn't change. He didn't move. But something behind his eyes shifted, something dark and possessive and absolutely certain. Elena. Her name in his mouth was a statement of ownership. Not a question, not a greeting, a claim. She couldn't speak. Her throat had closed up, her lungs forgetting how to pull air. The baby kicked hard, like he could sense the danger, like even in the womb he knew what his father was. You gonna stand there all night, or you gonna tell me how the hell you thought this would work? Adrian's voice was quiet, controlled, which meant he was furious. She'd learned to read him like that. The quieter he got, the more dangerous. When Adrian Vescari raised his voice, someone was about to have a bad day. When he went silent, someone was about to stop having days at all. I don't know what you're talking about. The lie tasted like ash. He moved then. 3 steps that closed the distance between them, and suddenly he was there, too close, invading the careful space she'd built around herself. He smelled like expensive cologne and something darker underneath, gunpowder maybe, or just the particular scent of a man who broke things for a living. Don't. His hand came up and she flinched. He froze, his jaw tightening. Don't do that. I've never... He bit off the words. How far along? None of your business. How far along? 7 months, 28 weeks, 196 days since she'd fled his apartment in the middle of the night with nothing but the clothes on her back and the secret growing inside her. 196 days of telling herself she'd made the right choice. It's not yours, she whispered. His laugh was cruel. Try again. Adrian. How far along, Elena? He was so close now she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, could see the muscle jumping in his jaw. Tell me the truth, or I'll have Marco pull every medical record from every clinic in this shithole town until I find it myself. She believed him. Adrian didn't make threats he couldn't keep. 7 months. Something flickered across his face. Quick. Almost too fast to catch. But she saw it. The math clicking into place, the certainty settling over him like armor. Jesus Christ. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. The gesture was so familiar it hurt. She'd seen him do it 1,000 times, after meetings that went bad, after nights that went too well, after she said something that surprised him. 7 months. You've been hiding my kid for 7 months. He's not... Don't. The word cracked like a whip. Don't you dare tell me he's not mine. The baby kicked again, harder this time, like he was agreeing with his father. Lou emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. Everything okay out here? Elena, you break something? Adrian didn't even glance at him. We're closed. The hell we are. This is my... Marco moved. Fast. One moment he was by the door, the next he had Lou pressed against the counter, a gun barrel kissing his temple. He said closed, Marco said pleasantly. Lou's face went white. The drunk businessman at the counter scrambled for the door, nearly tripping over his own feet. The fighting couple in the corner booth sat frozen, the wife's hand halfway to her mouth. Let them go, Adrian said. All of them. They didn't see anything. It wasn't a suggestion. Marco released Lou, who backed toward the kitchen, hands raised. The other customers practically ran for the exit. In 30 seconds, the diner was empty except for Elena, Adrian, and his 2 shadows. The door swung shut. The lock clicked. You shouldn't be working like this. Adrian's voice had gone soft again, dangerous soft. On your feet all night, lifting things. You could hurt yourself, hurt the baby. I have to work. I have to eat. Not anymore. You don't get to just... I get to do whatever the hell I want, Elena. You know that. You've always known that. He moved closer again, and this time she held her ground. What I want right now is answers, starting with why you ran. She laughed, came out bitter and broken. You really don't know? Enlighten me. I saw what you did. The words ripped out of her. I saw what you did to that man, to Marcus. He stole from me. You put a gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger while his wife watched. Adrian's expression didn't change. He knew the rules. He broke them anyway. He had kids, Adrian, 3 kids. And you made his wife? Her voice cracked. You made her watch. She needed to understand there are consequences. They all need to understand. He said it like he was explaining basic math, like murder was just another business expense. That's how this works. That's why I left. Elena wrapped her arms around her belly, protective, futile. I can't raise a child in that world. I won't. So you thought you'd raise him here instead? Adrian gestured at the diner. The cracked vinyl booths, the water-stained ceiling, the smell of desperation soaked into every surface. Working yourself to death for what, $8 an hour? Living in some rat hole where the locks don't work and the heat doesn't turn on? You think that's better? It's honest. It's suicide. His hand shot out, gripping her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. Not rough, but firm, inescapable. Look at you. You're exhausted, half-starved. Your hands are shaking. When's the last time you saw a doctor? She pulled away from his touch. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're barely standing. His gaze raked over her, and she saw him cataloging every detail. The shadows under her eyes, the way her uniform hung loose everywhere except her belly, the tremor in her fingers that wouldn't stop. Have you been taking your vitamins? Getting enough protein? What about your iron levels? You were always anemic. The fact that he remembered twisted something in her chest. I'm managing. Yeah, I can see that. He looked around the diner again, disgust clear on his face. Get your things. What? You're coming with me. No, I'm not going anywhere with you. This isn't a negotiation, Elena. You can't just watch me. He pulled out his phone, typed something fast. I've got a car outside, a doctor on standby, a room ready at the estate, everything you need. I don't need anything from you. You need everything from me, and whether you admit it or not, so does he. Adrian's hand moved toward her belly, stopped an inch away, hovering. That's my son you're carrying. You don't know that. I know you. His voice dropped, intimate, the way it used to sound in the dark after. I know you haven't been with anyone else. Not before me. Not after. You're a lot of things, Elena, but you're not a liar. She was, though. She'd become an excellent liar. She'd lied to every person she'd met in this town, lied about her name, her past, her reasons for showing up 7 months pregnant with no husband and no history. But she couldn't lie to him, not when he was looking at her like that. It doesn't matter, she said. I'm not coming back. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Not anymore. Something in his tone made her blood run cold. You made your choice when you decided to keep my baby without telling me. Now I'm making mine. Marco appeared at her elbow. She hadn't heard him move. Don't touch me. She jerked away, but there was nowhere to go. The counter at her back, Adrian in front of her, Marco to the side. Easy. Adrian's hand finally landed on her belly, gentle, possessive. The baby kicked against his palm, and she watched his entire expression shift, soften. Something almost vulnerable crossing his face before he locked it down. I'm not going to hurt you. I've never hurt you. You hurt everyone. Not you. Never you. His thumb moved in a slow circle, feeling the shape of his son through her skin. And not him. I'll burn this whole goddamn city to the ground before I let anything happen to either of you. That was the problem, wasn't it? Adrian Vescari loved exactly two things in this world, power and her. And he protected both with the same brutal efficiency. Please. She hated how her voice shook. Just let me go. Pretend you never found me. Can't do that. Why not? His eyes met hers, dark, infinite, absolutely certain. Because you're mine. You've always been mine. And I don't let go of what's mine. Her knees started to buckle. The exhaustion, the fear, the sheer weight of the last 7 months crashing down all at once. Adrian caught her, his arms strong and steady and terrifyingly familiar. I've got you. He lifted her like she weighed nothing. Marco, get the door. Call Dr. Reeves. Tell him I need him at the estate in 20 minutes. Adrian, put me down. Not a chance. I can walk. You can barely stand. He was already moving toward the door, carrying her like she was something precious, something breakable. When's the last time you ate a real meal? She couldn't remember. When's the last time you slept through the night? Never. Not since she left him. The cold air hit her face as they stepped outside. A black SUV idled at the curb, dark windows, no plates. The kind of car designed to be forgotten. I have to get my things from my apartment. Already taken care of. What? You think I just found you tonight? Adrian's smile was sharp. I've known where you were for 3 weeks, Elena. I've had men watching you, making sure you were safe, making sure no one bothered you. The words hit her like a slap. You've been watching me? Every second. No shame. No apology. You really think I'd let you disappear? I had people looking the moment I realized you were gone. Took them longer than it should have. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, but I always knew I'd find you eventually. Then why wait? Why show up now? His jaw tightened. I was giving you time, space, trying to figure out why you ran. If you'd come back on your own. He looked down at her belly. Then I got the surveillance photos from yesterday, saw how pregnant you were, did the math. So you decided to, what, kidnap me? I decided to bring you home. Your house isn't my home. It is now. He settled her into the back seat, sliding in beside her. Marco took the front passenger seat. The other man, still nameless, drove. The door locked with a solid click. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. She was back in his world, back in his control. The SUV pulled away from the diner, and through the rear window she watched her carefully constructed life disappear into the darkness. You're shaking. Adrian shrugged out of his jacket, draped it over her shoulders. It smelled like him. The scent unlocked 1,000 memories she'd been trying to bury. I'm cold. You're terrified. His hand found hers in the dark. I told you, I'm not going to hurt you. You already are. That landed. She saw it in the way his fingers tightened around hers, the way his breath caught. Tell me what you need, he said quietly, to feel safe, to believe me. I need you to let me go. Anything but that. The city blurred past the windows. They were heading west toward the hills where money insulated itself from the rest of humanity, toward estates with gates and guards and the kind of privacy that let men like Adrian do whatever they wanted without witnesses. How did you even find me? She asked. I was careful. I paid cash. I didn't use my real name. You kept your phone. She closed her eyes. Stupid. So stupid. You turned it off, took the SIM card out. But you kept it, just in case. Adrian's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. I had my tech people monitoring. Took months, but eventually you slipped. Turned it on for 30 seconds. That's all we needed. Why keep it? She'd asked herself that 100 times. I should have thrown it away. Because part of you wanted me to find you. His voice was soft, almost gentle. Part of you has always known this is where you belong. That's not, isn't it? He shifted closer, his free hand coming up to cup her face. You could have disappeared completely, Elena. Could have left the state, the country. But you stayed within 100 miles of me, working at a diner where my people do collections every Tuesday. You think that's an accident? She didn't know anymore. The last 7 months had been about survival, not analysis. Every day was just wake up, work, sleep, repeat. Don't think about what you left behind. Don't think about what you're carrying. Don't think about Adrian. I saw what you are, she whispered. What you really are. And I can't be part of that. What I am is a man who protects what's his. His forehead touched hers. What I am is the only thing standing between you and a world that would eat you alive. You know what happens to women alone in this city? Pregnant, vulnerable, no family, no money. You know. She did know. She'd seen it at the diner. Women with black eyes and broken fingers. Women who smiled too quickly and flinched too easily. Women who'd made the wrong choice about the wrong man and were paying for it in installments they'd never finish. I'm not like them. No, you're worse off. Because you're carrying a Viscari. His hand moved back to her belly. You think the people I've crossed wouldn't love to get their hands on my child? My weak spot? You think running away made you safer? The SUV turned through massive iron gates. Spotlights tracked their progress up a winding drive. I've had 3 credible threats against you in the last week alone, Adrian continued. The Calabrese family, the Irish crew on the docks, some ambitious punk from Chicago who thinks he can make a name for himself by taking something from me. They've all been looking for leverage, looking for a way to hurt me. Her blood went cold. That's exactly why I left, and it's exactly why you need to stay. Here, where I can protect you, where no one gets within a mile of you without going through me first. The car stopped. Through the window, Elena could see the estate, all glass and steel and brutal modern architecture designed to intimidate. She'd lived here once. For 6 months, she'd woken up in Adrian's bed and eaten breakfast on the terrace and pretended that love and violence could somehow coexist. Then she'd seen what love looked like in his world, seen what he did to protect his empire. And she'd run. I can't do this, she said. I can't be that person again. What person? The one who pretends not to see, who closes her eyes and tells herself it's not her problem. She turned to face him fully. You killed a man in front of his wife, Adrian, and it wasn't the first time. It won't be the last. How am I supposed to bring a child into that? The same way my mother did. The same way every woman in this life does. His voice went hard. You think I don't know what I am? You think I don't see how you look at me now, like I'm a monster? I don't. You do. And maybe you're right, but I'm your monster, Elena, and I'm the only thing keeping you and our son alive. The door opened. Marco stood waiting. Adrian climbed out first, then turned to help her. She ignored his hand, struggling to get out on her own. Her belly made everything awkward. Her center of gravity was shot to hell. He caught her anyway when she stumbled. Stubborn, he muttered. You have no idea. The front door opened. A woman in her 50s appeared. Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper. Her face broke into a smile when she saw Elena. Miss Hayes, oh, we've been so worried. She stopped, her eyes dropping to Elena's belly. Oh my. Prepare the east bedroom, Adrian said, and get Dr. Reeves set up in there when he arrives. I want a full workup, blood tests, ultrasound, everything. Of course, Mr. Vescari. He guided Elena inside. The house looked the same, felt the same, like walking into a museum of her own past. I'll show you to your room. It's not my room. It is now. He led her up the curved staircase, his hand at the small of her back. I had it redecorated. Thought you might want something softer for the baby. The east bedroom had been a guest room before. Now it looked like something out of a magazine spread. Soft grays and whites. A crib in the corner. A rocking chair by the window. A bassinet. Changing table. Everything someone might need for a newborn. Everything she couldn't afford. When did you... 3 weeks ago, when I confirmed you were pregnant. Adrian leaned against the door frame, watching her take it in. I wasn't sure how far along, so I got everything. Clothes in multiple sizes, diapers, bottles. Dr. Reeves can tell us what else you need. She wanted to be angry, wanted to rage at his presumption, his control, his absolute certainty that he could just decide how her life would go. But she was so tired, and the bed looked so soft. I know you hate me right now, Adrian said quietly. I know you think I'm forcing this, and maybe I am. But Elena, he crossed to her, his hands settling on her shoulders. I can't let you struggle. Can't let you work yourself to death in some shithole diner while you're carrying my son. I just can't. It's not about what you can handle, isn't it? His hands slid down her arms. You think I slept one night in the last 3 weeks, knowing where you were, seeing the surveillance photos, watching you barely eat, barely rest, barely survive? You could have helped without kidnapping me. You would have run again. She couldn't argue with that. A knock at the door. Mrs. Chen appeared with Dr. Reeves, tall, gray-haired, the kind of expensive medical professional who made house calls at 3 a.m. because men like Adrian paid him enough to be available always. Mr. Vescari, Miss Hayes. He set down his bag. Let's take a look, shall we? The next hour passed in a blur of tests and questions. Blood pressure, blood draw, urine sample. Dr. Reeves's hands were gentle on her belly, professional, but Elena still felt exposed, vulnerable. Adrian stayed, through all of it, his eyes never leaving her. 7 months along, Dr. Reeves confirmed. Due date looks like early June, give or take a week. And? Adrian's voice was tight. She's severely anemic, underweight, blood pressure is higher than I'd like, signs of exhaustion and malnutrition. He gave Elena a kind but firm look. You've been pushing yourself too hard. I had to work. Well, you don't anymore. Dr. Reeves packed up his equipment. Bed rest for the next week, minimum. Prenatal vitamins, I'll leave a prescription, high-protein diet, plenty of fluids, and Mr. Viscari. He turned. She needs to avoid stress. Adrian's laugh was bitter. Yeah, I'll work on that. When the doctor left, silence filled the room. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, exhaustion crushing down on her shoulders like a physical weight. You should sleep, Adrian said. I should run. Where would you go? Not cruel, just honest. I'll find you again, every time, no matter how far you get. That's not love, Adrian. That's obsession. Call it whatever you want. He crouched in front of her, his hands on her knees. But understand this. I'm not letting you go. Not you, not him. You're mine. And I protect what's mine. She should have been terrified. Should have been planning her escape. But looking into his eyes, she saw something she'd forgotten. Something that had drawn her to him in the first place before she knew what he was. He meant it, every word. For better or worse, Adrian Viscari would burn the world down before he let anything happen to her. The question was whether she could survive being loved by a man who destroyed everything he touched. Get some rest, he said, standing. We'll talk more in the morning. Where are you going? To make sure no one comes near this house who shouldn't. He paused at the door. I meant what I said, Elena. You're safe here. Whatever you saw, whatever scared you, I'll keep that away from you, from him. I swear it. Then he was gone, and she was alone in the beautiful prison he'd built for her. Elena lay back on the bed, her hands on her belly. The baby kicked, strong, healthy, fighting. I'm sorry, she whispered. I tried. I really tried. But trying didn't matter. Not in Adrian's world. In his world, he always got what he wanted, and what he wanted was her. Elena woke to sunlight streaming through windows she didn't recognize and the smell of coffee she hadn't made. For 3 seconds, she forgot where she was. Then her hand moved to her belly, felt the baby kick, and everything came rushing back. Adrian, the diner, the ride through gates that locked behind her. She was in his house again. In his world. In his control. The clock on the nightstand said 11:47 a.m. She'd slept for 8 hours straight, the longest stretch in months. Her body felt heavy, drugged with actual rest. Part of her hated how good it felt to wake up without an alarm screaming at her to get to work. A soft knock at the door. Mrs. Chen entered with a tray before Elena could answer. Good morning, Miss Hayes. I brought breakfast. Mr. Viscari said you're to eat everything. She set the tray on the bedside table, scrambled eggs, whole wheat toast, fresh fruit, orange juice, and the coffee Elena could smell from across the room. He also said to tell you, Doctor, Reeves left prenatal vitamins. They're in the bathroom. Where is he? Elena pushed herself up against the headboard. Adrian, in his office. He's been there since dawn. Mrs. Chen fussed with the pillows, her movements efficient but kind. He gave strict instructions you're not to be disturbed unless you ask for something. So I'm a prisoner who gets room service. Mrs. Chen's expression didn't change. You're a guest who needs to rest. That's not what this is. No, the older woman met her eyes. It's not. But Mr. Viscari, he's been impossible these past months. Not sleeping, barely eating, tearing through every lead trying to find you. Now that you're here, she trailed off. Eat your breakfast, Miss Hayes. You need your strength. After she left, Elena stared at the tray. Her stomach growled, actual hunger instead of the constant nausea that had plagued her for weeks. The eggs were perfect. The toast had real butter. The fruit looked like it cost more than she used to make in a day. She hated that she wanted it, hated more that she needed it. But the baby kicked again, demanding fuel, and Elena had learned months ago that her own pride mattered less than keeping him alive. She ate everything. The prenatal vitamins in the bathroom came with a note in Adrian's handwriting. "Take these, doctor's orders, mine too." She wanted to throw them in the trash, wanted to prove she didn't need his help, or his orders, or his expensive medical care. Instead, she took 2 pills and drank an entire glass of water, because the baby needed iron and she'd been barely holding on for months. A shower helped. The bathroom had one of those rainfall shower heads and water pressure that actually worked, clean towels that smelled like lavender instead of mildew, soap that didn't come from a dollar store. She stood under the hot water until it started to run cold, letting it beat against her shoulders, trying to wash away the feeling that she was slipping back into a life she'd sworn to escape. The closet had clothes in her size, maternity clothes, soft cotton dresses, loose pants with elastic waistbands, things designed for comfort instead of the synthetic uniforms that had chafed her skin raw. Everything still had tags on. Everything looked expensive. She chose the plainest option she could find, gray cotton dress, nothing fancy, and tried not to think about how Adrian had known her size, had probably had someone measure her from surveillance photos, had probably been planning this moment for weeks. The house was quiet when she finally left the bedroom. Too quiet. She remembered it being full of people before. Staff, security, Adrian's business associates coming and going at all hours. Now it felt empty, deliberate. He'd cleared them out. For her. She found him exactly where Mrs. Chen said he'd be, in his office on the ground floor, the door half open. He sat behind a massive desk, phone pressed to his ear, his other hand rubbing his temple like he had a headache. "I don't care what Dmitri thinks he's entitled to. The answer is no." His voice was cold, flat. The tone he used when he'd already decided someone's fate. "You tell him if he pushes this, he won't like how it ends." He listened for a moment, then his gaze flicked up and caught Elena standing in the doorway. Everything about him changed. The hardness in his face softened. His posture shifted, like watching a weapon turn into something almost human. "Handle it," he said into the phone, then hung up without waiting for a response. "You're awake. Apparently I'm well rested and fed. Your housekeeper is very efficient. She's been with my family for 20 years. She knows how to follow instructions." He stood, moving around the desk. "How are you feeling?" "Like I'm in a very nice cage." "You're not—" He stopped himself. "The doctor said you need to rest. So you're resting. I need to work. I have rent due. Bills. Taken care of?" She blinked. "What?" "Your landlord, I paid him off, 6 months in advance, plus extra to keep his mouth shut about where you went." Adrian leaned against the desk, watching her. "Your other bills, too. The clinic where you saw that nurse practitioner twice. The pharmacy. All settled." "You can't just—" "I can. I did." He crossed his arms. "You don't have to worry about money anymore, Elena. You don't have to worry about anything except staying healthy and taking care of yourself." "I don't want your money." "Too bad. You're getting it anyway." His jaw tightened. "You're carrying my son. That makes you my responsibility." "I'm not your anything." We both know that's not true. The air between them felt charged, electric, all the things they weren't saying crackling like static. Elena wrapped her arms around her belly. "I can't stay here, Adrian. Where else would you go?" "Anywhere. Somewhere you're not." That landed. She saw it in the way his hands clenched. "You really hate me that much?" "I don't hate you. That's the problem." The words came out before she could stop them. "I wish I did. It would make this easier." He moved toward her slowly, like approaching something wild that might bolt. "Then why run?" "Because loving you scares me more than hating you ever could." His hand came up to cup her face. She should have pulled away, should have reinforced the walls she'd spent 7 months building. Instead, she leaned into his palm, just slightly, and watched something in his eyes break open. "I never meant to scare you," he said quietly. "Never meant for you to see, but I did see. And I can't unsee it, Adrian, can't pretend it didn't happen." "I know." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "But I can keep that part of my life away from you, keep you separate from the business. You and the baby, You don't have to be part of that world. I'm already part of it. The second I got involved with you, I became part of it. Then let me protect you from it. By locking me in your house? By keeping you safe. His forehead touched hers. You have no idea how many people would love to hurt you just to get to me. How many threats I've shut down in the last 3 weeks alone. The Calabrese family put a $50,000 bounty on any information about my personal life. The Irish are looking for leverage, and there are a dozen smaller crews who think kidnapping you would give them negotiating power. Her blood went cold. You're just trying to scare me. I'm trying to make you understand reality. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. You think that diner was safe? Lou's been skimming profits for months. The health inspector is on the take. And last Tuesday, 2 of Victor Kozlov's guys came in asking questions about the new waitress who showed up pregnant and alone. You're lying. Marco has the surveillance footage. I can show you if you want. His expression was grim. They were casing the place, figuring out your schedule, planning something, then they disappeared. She didn't want to ask. What did you do to them? What I had to. Elena stepped back, her hands trembling. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is why I left. No. You left because you're scared of what I'm capable of. But Elena, his voice dropped. Everything I'm capable of? I do it to protect what's mine, including you, especially you. I don't want people hurt because of me. Then stop fighting me and let me do my job. Your job is running a criminal empire. My job is making sure my family survives. The word hung between them. Family. Like he'd already decided that's what they were. And right now, that means keeping you here until the baby comes, until I can set up better security, until I know for certain that no one can touch you. How long? As long as it takes. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. A door slammed somewhere in the house. Footsteps approached, fast, angry. Marco appeared in the doorway, his face tight. We've got a problem. Adrian's entire demeanor shifted, back to the man Elena had seen on the phone. Cold, dangerous. Not here, he said. I can't wait. Then make it wait. Adrian's voice was steel. I'm with Elena. Marco glanced at her, then back at Adrian. Calabrese sent a message. They know she's here. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. How? One word, lethal. Don't know yet, but they're asking for a meeting. Tomorrow, neutral ground. They say they want to negotiate terms. Tell them to go to hell. They said if you don't show, they'll assume you're weak, that protecting one woman makes you vulnerable. Marco's jaw worked. They're already spreading it, that you've gone soft, that you brought a pregnant girl into your house, and now you're distracted. Adrian's laugh was cruel. They think I'm soft? Perfect. Let them think that. Let them make a move. I'll show them exactly how soft I am when I'm putting bullets in their heads. Adrian, Elena's voice came out small. He turned to her, and his expression gentled slightly. This doesn't concern you. It absolutely concerns me if people are threatening you because I'm here. They're not threatening me because you're here. They're threatening me because they're idiots who don't understand that touching you is the fastest way to die in this city. He looked back at Marco. Set up the meeting, tomorrow night, the warehouse on 5th. And Marco, bring everyone. You're walking into a trap. I know. That's why I'm bringing everyone. Adrian's smile was sharp. They want to negotiate? Fine. We'll negotiate. Right after I make it clear what happens to anyone who even thinks about going near Elena. Marco nodded and left. The silence he left behind felt suffocating. You can't start a war because of me, Elena said. I'm not starting anything. I'm finishing it. Adrian moved to the window, looking out at the grounds. This was coming anyway. Calabrese has been pushing boundaries for months, testing me, seeing how far he can go. Now he knows you exist, and he thinks that makes me weak, makes me vulnerable. Doesn't it? He turned back to her. No, it makes me more dangerous, because now I have something to protect, something worth burning the whole goddamn city for. That's insane. That's love. The word sat between them like a grenade with the pin pulled. Don't, Elena whispered. Don't say that word like it justifies this. What else would you call it? He crossed back to her. I think about you every second. Dream about you every night. Spent 7 months tearing this city apart looking for you. Now that I've found you, now that I know you're carrying my son, you think I'm going to let some two-bit gangster threaten what we have? We don't have anything. We had something, past tense, before I knew what you really were. I'm the same man I always was, Elena. You just stopped pretending you didn't know. That stung because it was true. She'd known from the beginning, known what Adrian was, what he did. She'd just chosen not to look too closely, chosen to enjoy the luxury and the protection and the way he made her feel like the only person in the world who mattered, until the night she couldn't look away anymore. I saw you kill that man, she said. I saw the look on your face. You didn't even hesitate. He stole from me, endangered my people. What was I supposed to do? Give him a stern talking to? You could have let him go. Could have given him a chance to make it right. There are no second chances in my world. You know that. Everyone knows that. It's why the system works. Adrian's voice was calm, reasonable, like they were discussing the weather instead of murder. Marcus knew the rules. He chose to break them anyway. His death isn't on me. It's on him. You made his wife watch. She was in on it. She helped him steal, and yeah, I made her watch because I needed her to understand that there are consequences. That loyalty means something, that you don't betray the people who protect you. His eyes held hers. You think that's cruel? Maybe it is. But you know how many people tried to steal from me this month? None. You know why? Because they remember what happened to Marcus. Elena's stomach turned. I can't raise a child in a world where that's normal. Then we'll keep him separate from it. He doesn't have to know. Doesn't have to see. Adrian's hand moved to her belly again, that same gentle touch that seemed impossible coming from hands that had killed. I can give him everything, Elena. The best schools, the best life. He'll never want for anything, never have to struggle like you have been. Except he'll have a father who murders people. He'll have a father who would die for him, who would kill for him, who would burn the whole world down to keep him safe. Adrian's voice roughened. Isn't that what matters? That he's loved? Protected? It matters that he's raised to be a good person, not like me. Adrian stepped back. Yeah, I get it. You want him to be better than his old man. Fine. We'll make sure he is. But that doesn't change the fact that he's a Vescari, that he'll have enemies the day he's born, that people will try to use him to get to me. So what's your solution? Lock him in this house forever? My solution is to make sure everyone in this city understands that touching my family means death. Swift, certain, no negotiations. He moved toward the door. I've got work to do. Marco will be outside if you need anything. Don't leave the house. Don't go near the windows after dark. And don't what? Don't try to escape? His hand gripped the doorframe. Don't make me worry more than I already am. Then he was gone, and Elena was alone again with the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on her chest. She spent the rest of the day in the bedroom, watching the grounds through bulletproof windows she hadn't noticed before. Men in dark suits patrolled the perimeter. Cameras tracked every angle. This wasn't a house. It was a fortress, and she was trapped inside it. Mrs. Chen brought lunch, then dinner. Elena ate mechanically, feeding the baby even though she had no appetite herself. When night fell, she could see lights in the distance, the city sprawling out below the hills. Somewhere out there was the diner, the apartment, the life she'd built from nothing. It hadn't been much, but it had been hers. Now she had everything she'd never wanted and nothing she actually needed. Around midnight, she heard voices downstairs. Men arriving, lots of them. She crept to the door, opened it a crack. Adrian stood in the foyer surrounded by at least 20 men, all armed, all listening as he gave instructions in that cold, flat tone that meant someone was about to have a very bad night. The meeting is at 10. We arrive at 9:30. Marco, you take the north entrance. Tommy, south. I want snipers on the roof across the street. Anyone who's not Calabrese family gets turned away. Anyone who is Calabrese family gets searched thoroughly. You really think he's going to try something? one of the men asked. I think he's an idiot who doesn't understand the situation he's in, but we prepare like he's a genius anyway. Adrian's gaze swept the room. This is about making a point. Elena Hayes is under my protection. My son is under my protection. Anyone who threatens them doesn't just answer to me. They answer to all of us. Clear? A chorus of agreement. Good. Get some rest. Tomorrow we remind this city who runs it. The men dispersed. Adrian stood alone in the foyer for a long moment, his hand rubbing the back of his neck. Then he looked up, directly at Elena's door. She should have stepped back, pretended she hadn't been watching. Instead, she held his gaze across the distance. He climbed the stairs slowly, stopped in her doorway. Can't sleep? He asked. Hard to sleep when you're planning a war in my living room. Not your living room, and not a war, just a meeting. He leaned against the frame. Did I wake you? I was already awake. Baby kicking? My baby's fine. I'm the one who can't settle. He studied her face. You're scared. Of course I'm scared. You just told 20 men with guns to prepare for violence tomorrow night. I told them to prepare for the possibility of violence, different thing. He stepped into the room. Calabrese won't actually try anything. He's not that stupid. This is posturing, showing strength, making it clear that he's not intimidated. And you're going to make it clear that he should be. Exactly. Adrian sat on the edge of the bed. I'm sorry you heard that. I tried to keep it quiet. Why? I'm already in this. Might as well know what's happening. Because you shouldn't have to worry about it. You should be resting, taking care of yourself and the baby. His hand found hers in the dark. That's my job. Worrying, planning, dealing with idiots like Calabrese. What if something happens to you? The question hung between them. Nothing's going to happen to me. You don't know that. I do, actually, because I'm better than they are. Smarter, more prepared, and I have something they don't. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I have something worth coming home to. Elena's throat tightened. Don't do that. Do what? Make this romantic. Make it sound like you're some kind of hero instead of what I am. A criminal, a killer, the monster under the bed. He said it without emotion. I know what I am, Elena. I've always known. But that doesn't change how I feel about you. How do you feel about me? Like you're the only thing in this world that makes sense. Like everything I've done, every choice I've made, every line I've crossed, it was all leading to you. He lifted her hand to his lips. Like losing you would be worse than dying. She wanted to pull away, wanted to protect herself from the intensity of what he was offering. But the baby kicked, and she felt Adrian's hand move to where their son was fighting inside her, and everything got complicated again. He's strong, Adrian said quietly. Feels healthy. Dr. Reeves said he's measuring right on track, despite everything. Despite you working yourself half to death for 7 months? There was no accusation in his tone, just sadness. Elena, I need you to understand something. I'm not mad that you ran. I'm mad that you thought you had to, that I made you so scared you'd rather struggle alone than stay with me. I wasn't scared of you. I was scared of what you'd become, what I'd become if I stayed. What's that? Complicit. The word tasted bitter. Someone who knows about the violence and the killing and chooses to ignore it because the alternative is harder. Adrian was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was rough. My father used to tell me that there are 2 kinds of people in this world, wolves and sheep. Wolves hunt, sheep get eaten, and the only way to protect the people you love is to be the biggest, meanest wolf in the forest. That's a terrible philosophy. Maybe. But it's kept my family alive for 3 generations. He looked at her. You think I like what I do? You think I enjoy putting guns to people's heads? Watching them beg? I don't know. Do you? Sometimes. The honesty was brutal. Sometimes I feel nothing at all. And that's worse. That's what scares me. That I've done it so many times it doesn't even register anymore. That I can order someone's death over breakfast and not lose my appetite. Then why keep doing it? Because the alternative is letting someone else be the wolf, letting some other crew take over, and they won't be careful like I am. They won't have rules. They'll hurt innocent people, civilians, kids. His jaw worked. At least when I'm running things, there are limits. At least I try to keep the violence contained. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. It's the truth. He stood, moving toward the door. I'm not a good man, Elena. Never claimed to be. But I'm good to you. Good to the people I care about. And our son. He'll never see that side of me. I swear it. He'll have a normal life, normal childhood. He won't grow up around guns and violence. He'll be protected from all of it. How? How can you promise that when your entire life is violence? I'll build him walls, keep the darkness on the outside. Adrian's hand gripped the doorframe. The same way I'm going to keep you safe. Even if you hate me for it. I don't hate you, she said again, softer this time. He looked back at her, and the vulnerability in his expression nearly broke her. Then what do you feel? Confused, scared, angry that you're making me choose between principles and survival. You don't have to choose. I'm choosing for both of us. He stepped into the hallway. Get some sleep, Elena. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Adrian, he stopped. Be careful. At the meeting. Please. Something in his expression softened. I will. I promise. Then he was gone, and Elena was alone with the baby and her doubts and the growing certainty that she'd already made her choice by staying this long. She climbed into bed, her hands on her belly, feeling their son move beneath her palms. Your father is impossible, she whispered. Dangerous. Controlling. Everything I should run from. The baby kicked in response. But he loves us. In his own twisted way, he really loves us. And that was the problem. Because somewhere between the diner and the estate, between fear and exhaustion, Elena had started to remember why she'd fallen for Adrian Viscari in the first place. Not because he was safe, but because he made her feel protected in a world that had never given her that gift. Not because he was good, but because he was honest about what he was and what he'd do to keep her. Not in spite of the danger, but because of it. Because loving a man like Adrian meant being the most important thing in his universe, the one thing he'd die for. And as much as she hated herself for it, part of her wanted that, craved it, needed to matter that much to someone, even if that someone had blood on his hands. Sleep came eventually, heavy and dreamless. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the windows again and voices were murmuring downstairs. The clock said 8:43 a.m. Adrian would be leaving soon, going to the meeting with Calabrese, walking into whatever trap or negotiation or power play was waiting. Elena threw on clothes and made her way downstairs. The house was full of men again, all of them armed, all of them focused. They looked at her with a mixture of respect and curiosity, then quickly looked away when Adrian's voice cut through the room. Elena, you should be resting. I wanted to see you before you left. That stopped him. His expression shifted, surprise, then something warmer. Give us a minute, he told the room. The men filed out. Marco hesitated, then followed when Adrian gave him a look. They were alone. I didn't think you'd want to see me off, Adrian said. I didn't think I would either. Elena crossed her arms over her belly. But I woke up and realized you might not come back. And I don't want things to end like this. With me angry and you thinking I hate you. Do you? No. The admission felt like surrender. I wish I did, but no. He moved toward her slowly, giving her time to back away. She didn't. His hand settled on her waist, careful of her belly. I'm coming back, Elena. I promise. You can't promise that. Watch me. He leaned down, his forehead touching hers. I've survived worse than Calabrese. And now I have a reason to be extra careful. Because of the baby. Because of both of you. His hand cupped her face. I meant what I said last night. You're the only thing that makes sense. The only thing worth protecting. And I'm not leaving you to raise our son alone. Before she could respond, he kissed her. Soft, gentle. Nothing like the desperate passion they used to share. This was different. A promise instead of a claim. When he pulled back, his eyes held hers. I'll be back by tonight. Stay inside. Stay safe. And Elena, he paused. Thank you. For what? For caring enough to worry. Then he was gone, surrounded by his men, walking out the door toward whatever violence was waiting. And Elena stood in the foyer of his house. Their house. With her hands on her belly and the terrible certainty that she'd just crossed a line she could never uncross. She'd stopped running. Worse, she'd stopped wanting to. The hours crawled by like wounded animals. Elena tried reading, tried watching television, tried doing anything except staring at the clock and imagining all the ways Adrian could die at a warehouse on 5th Street. Mrs. Chen brought lunch at 1. Elena picked at grilled chicken and vegetables she couldn't taste, her stomach too tight with anxiety to process food properly. He'll be fine, Mrs. Chen said quietly, collecting the half-empty plate. Mr. Vescari always comes home, until the day he doesn't. The older woman's expression softened. He's been doing this since he was 22. 12 years, Miss Hayes. 12 years of meetings and negotiations and men trying to take what's his. He's still here, still standing. That means something. It means he's been lucky. It means he's smart, careful, and now he has you to come home to. That makes him more careful, not less. After she left, Elena moved to the window, watching the driveway like she could will Adrian's car to appear through sheer force of concentration. The afternoon sun turned everything golden, peaceful. The grounds looked like something from a magazine, perfectly manicured, utterly removed from the violence simmering just beyond the gates. Her back ached. The baby had been restless all day, kicking and shifting like he could sense her tension. She pressed her hand to the spot where his foot, or maybe his elbow, pushed against her ribs. "Your father better come back," she whispered, "because I don't know how to do this alone." The words felt like betrayal. She'd spent 7 months preparing to do exactly that, raise this baby without Adrian, without his money or protection, or the terrible weight of his love. She'd convinced herself it was possible, necessary even. Now the thought of it made her chest tight with panic. 3 o'clock came and went. 4, 5. By 6, Elena was pacing the bedroom, her phone clutched in her hand even though she had no one to call. Adrian had destroyed her old SIM card, given her a new number that only connected to him and his people. Another leash, another way to keep her contained. She should have been angry about it. Instead, she pulled up his contact and stared at his name on the screen, her thumb hovering over the call button. A sharp pain lanced through her belly. She gasped, doubling over, her hand gripping the dresser for support. Braxton Hicks. Had to be. Dr. Reeves had warned her about them. Practice contractions. Uncomfortable but harmless. Her body preparing for labor still weeks away. The pain faded after 30 seconds. She straightened slowly, breathing through her mouth, waiting for another. Nothing came. Just stress. Just her body responding to the anxiety flooding her system. She needed to calm down, needed to breathe. Downstairs, a door slammed. Elena's heart leaped. She moved toward the bedroom door, then stopped when she heard voices. Sharp. Urgent. Wrong. That wasn't Adrian. She crept to the top of the stairs, staying in the shadows. Marco stood in the foyer with 3 other men she recognized from the morning. Their suits were dusty. One had blood on his collar, and their faces were tight with barely controlled fury. "Get Dr. Reeves here now," Marco barked into his phone. "I don't care what he's doing. Tell him it's an emergency." Elena's blood turned to ice. "What happened?" All 4 men spun toward her. Marco's expression shifted. Guilt, then determination. "Miss Hayes, you should go back to your room." "Where's Adrian?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "What happened at the meeting?" "There was an incident." "Where is he?" She was moving down the stairs before she realized it, her hand gripping the railing. "Marco, where is Adrian?" The front door burst open. More men poured in, and between them, half carried and bleeding, was Adrian. Elena's knees went weak. He was conscious, barely, one hand pressed to his side where red bloomed dark against his white shirt. His face was pale, jaw clenched against pain that made the tendons in his neck stand out like cables. "Kitchen," Marco ordered. "Clear the table. Tommy, get towels, clean ones." They hauled Adrian through the house. He caught sight of Elena frozen on the stairs, and something in his expression cracked. "I'm fine," he said. Lied. It's not as bad as it looks. Then his eyes rolled back and his knees buckled. Marco caught him before he hit the floor. Jesus Christ, get him on the table now. Elena followed them into the kitchen, her heart hammering so hard she could hear it in her ears. They laid Adrian on the massive wooden table Mrs. Chen used for meal prep. Someone was cutting away his shirt, revealing a gunshot wound just above his hip. Blood. So much blood. Calabrese? One of the men asked. His nephew, tore up little punk with something to prove. Marco's hands were slick and red as he applied pressure to the wound. Came in shooting before anyone could stop him. Adrian got him, but not before... I'm right here, Adrian gritted out. His eyes found Elena. You shouldn't be seeing this. Too late. She pushed through the men, ignoring their protests. How bad is it? Through and through. Missed anything vital. Marco didn't look at her. But he's losing blood fast. Where the hell is Reeves? 10 minutes out, someone called. He might not have 10 minutes. Elena's medical knowledge was limited to basic first aid and whatever she'd absorbed from TV medical dramas. But she could see Marco was right. The blood wasn't stopping, wasn't even slowing. Adrian's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. His fingers were cold. Elena, listen to me. Save your strength. Listen. His voice was fading. If something happens, nothing's happening. The doctor's coming. You're going to be fine. If something happens, he repeated, stronger now. There's a safe in my office. Combination is your birthday. Everything you need is in there. Money, documents, contacts, people who will help you and the baby if... Stop talking like you're dying. Her free hand found his face. You're not allowed to die. You promised you'd come back. I did come back. His smile was weak, bloody. Just a little worse for wear. The pain hit again, harder this time. Elena gasped, her hand moving to her belly as the contraction seized her muscles like a vice. Adrian's eyes sharpened despite the blood loss. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. You're not fine. Marco, it's just Braxton Hicks, stress. The pain was already fading. Focus on yourself. But Adrian's hand moved to her belly, even as his own blood pooled beneath him. How many? 2, maybe 3 today. That's not normal. Neither is getting shot, but here we are. She tried to smile. Failed. You need to stop bleeding. Working on it. His eyes were starting to lose focus. Elena, I need you to promise me something. No. If the baby comes early, if something happens to me, you'll use the resources I'm leaving you. You won't try to do this alone. You'll let my people protect you both. You're not going to die. Promise me. His grip on her wrist tightened. Please. Fine, I promise. Now stop talking and let Marco work. Dr. Reeves burst through the door, his medical bag already open. He took one look at Adrian and started barking orders. The men scattered to find supplies, to give him room, to do anything useful. Elena stepped back, her arms wrapped around her belly, watching as the doctor cut away more fabric and examined the wound with practiced efficiency. Bullet passed through clean, nicked the external oblique, but nothing worse. He's lucky. Reeves was already threading a needle. This is going to hurt. Just do it, Adrian said. No anesthetic, no numbing agent, just a needle and thread and a man too stubborn to pass out while someone sewed him back together. Adrian's jaw clenched so hard Elena heard his teeth grind, his hands fisted on the table. But he didn't make a sound, didn't even flinch as Reeves worked. She wanted to look away, wanted to retreat to her room and pretend this wasn't happening. Instead, she moved to his side and took his hand, his fingers wrapped around hers hard enough to hurt. She didn't pull away. Almost done, Reeves muttered. You're going to need antibiotics, rest, no strenuous activity for at least 2 weeks. Yeah, sure. Adrian's laugh was breathless. I'll just tell everyone to stop trying to kill me for a couple weeks. I'm serious, Viscari. This could get infected, could tear. You need to take it easy. He will, Elena said. Both men looked at her. He'll rest. I'll make sure of it. Adrian's expression softened despite the pain. You planning to tie me to the bed? If I have to. Kinky. You're delirious from blood loss. Maybe. Doesn't make it less true. His thumb traced circles on her palm. The same gesture from before. Grounding. Familiar. Another contraction hit, stronger than the last two. Elena's breath hissed out between her teeth as her belly went rigid. Reeves's head snapped toward her. "Miss Hayes?" "I'm fine. Just stress." "How far apart are they?" "I don't know. Not keeping track." "Start." The doctor finished the last stitch and reached for his bag. "Let me check you when I'm done here." "I'm fine. Really." But even as she said it, another pain gripped her, sharper, harder, and this time it came with pressure low in her pelvis that made her knees weak. Adrian tried to sit up. Marco pushed him back down. "You're not moving. You'll tear the stitches." "Elena, I'm okay." The lie tasted like copper. "It's probably nothing." Reeves was already moving toward her, his hands surprisingly gentle as he guided her to a chair. "When did the contractions start?" "This afternoon, around 3. "How many total?" 5. "Maybe 6. "And they're getting stronger, closer together." She didn't want to answer, didn't want to make it real, but her silence was answer enough. "Miss Hayes, I need to examine you, upstairs preferably." He looked at Marco. "Get him to his room, carefully, and someone clean up this mess." The men moved to obey. Adrian was trying to argue, trying to stay conscious long enough to make sure she was okay. But between the blood loss and whatever pain medication Reeves had finally given him, he was losing the fight. "Go," Elena told him. "I'm right behind you." His eyes held hers, desperate, terrified in a way bullets couldn't make him. "Don't let anything happen to him," Adrian said to Reeves. "I don't care what you have to do. Save my son." "I'm going to save both of them." The doctor's voice was firm. "But I need you to cooperate. Let them get you upstairs. Rest. Let your body heal." They carried Adrian out. Elena heard his protests echoing through the house until distance or unconsciousness cut them off. Then it was just her and Reeves and the growing certainty that something was very wrong. The examination upstairs confirmed it. She was 3 centimeters dilated. The contractions were regular, every 8 minutes now. Her blood pressure was elevated, and the baby's heart rate was faster than it should be. "You're in early labor," Reeves said quietly. "I can try to stop it, give you medication to slow the contractions. But Miss Hayes, with the stress you've been under, the poor nutrition these past months, your body's exhausted. It might not be enough." "He's too early, 7 months. He's not ready." 32 weeks is early, yes, but survivable. With proper care, the outcomes are generally good. He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling an ambulance. You need to be in a hospital. The NICU specialists." "No." The word came out sharp, panicked. "No hospitals." Adrian said, "He said there are people looking for ways to hurt him. Hurt us. If I go to a hospital, they'll know. They'll find us." "Miss Hayes, can you do it here? Can you deliver him here if it comes to that?" Reeves looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "This isn't some routine birth. If there are complications, if the baby needs intervention, I can't provide that here. He could die. You could die. And if I go to a hospital, someone could shoot us both before we ever make it to a delivery room." Her hands pressed against her belly. "You've seen what Adrian's world is like. You know the risks." The doctor's jaw worked. "This is insane. This is my life now." Another contraction hit. She breathed through it, counting seconds until it passed. "Can you do it or not?" "I can deliver the baby. I can handle most complications. But if he needs a ventilator, if his lungs aren't developed enough, if there's hemorrhaging, then we'll deal with it. But I'm not going to a hospital. I'm not putting my son at risk like that." Reeves stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone again. "I'm calling in favors, getting equipment brought here, an incubator, oxygen, whatever I can arrange." His expression was grim. "But Miss Hayes, you need to understand, this is incredibly dangerous for both of you." "I understand." She didn't, not really. But what choice did she have? The contractions continued through the evening, every 6 minutes, then every 5. Reeves set up equipment in her bedroom, monitors, IVs, things she didn't have names for. Mrs. Chen appeared with towels and sheets, her face tight with worry. Down the hall, Adrian was unconscious, recovering from surgery while his son fought to be born 2 months too soon. Elena walked the room between contractions, her hand on the small of her back, trying to ease pressure that couldn't be eased. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. She was supposed to have more time to prepare, to plan, to figure out how to be a mother. Instead, she was going into labor in a house full of armed men while the baby's father bled out down the hall. "You should try to rest," Reeves said. "Labor could go on for hours. You need your strength." "I can't rest. Every time I close my eyes, I see—" She bit off the words. "Is Adrian okay?" "Stable. The wound is clean. He'll recover." "Can I see him?" "He's sedated. Probably won't know you're there." "I don't care. I need to see him." Reeves helped her down the hall. Each step was agony, her body rebelling against movement while trying to prepare for birth. But she needed this. Needed to see Adrian breathing. Alive. He lay in his bed, pale against dark sheets. Someone had cleaned the blood away, changed his clothes, made him look almost peaceful except for the IV line running into his arm and the monitors tracking his vitals. Elena sank into the chair beside him, her hand finding his. "You better wake up for this," she whispered. "Your son's coming, and he's going to need his father." Adrian didn't respond, didn't even stir, but his fingers twitched around hers, just slightly. Enough to let her know he was still in there somewhere. Another contraction hit, harder than any before. Elena gasped, her free hand gripping the armrest as pain radiated through her entire abdomen. "We need to get you back to your room," Reeves said. "One more minute. Miss Hayes, please." Her voice broke. "Just one more minute." She needed this. Needed to memorize the feel of Adrian's hand in hers, the sound of his breathing, the solid reality of him still being here. Because in a few hours, everything was going to change. Their son was coming, ready or not, safe or not. And Elena had no idea if either of them would survive what came next. The contraction faded. Reeves helped her back to her room, back to the bed that had been transformed into a makeshift delivery suite. The monitors beeped steadily. The IV in her arm dripped medication designed to help the baby's lungs develop faster. Too little, too late. But it was something. "How long?" she asked. "Hard to say. Could it be hours? Could be all night." Reeves checked the monitors. "Try to relax. Breathe through the contractions. Save your energy for when you really need it." But the contractions kept coming, faster now. Every 4 minutes, every 3. Midnight came and went, then 1 a.m. 2. Elena lost track of time, lost track of everything except the relentless rhythm of her body trying to expel the baby it wasn't ready to release. She walked. She breathed. She screamed into pillows when the pain got too intense. Mrs. Chen appeared with ice chips, with cold cloths, with quiet encouragement that helped more than it should have. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, Reeves checked her again and his expression went tight. "You're at 8 centimeters. It's happening faster than I expected." "Is that bad?" "It's not ideal. But we're past the point of stopping it now." He started prepping equipment. "When you hit 10, you're going to start pushing. And Miss Hayes, I need you to listen very carefully. This baby is premature. He's going to be small. He might not cry right away. He might have trouble breathing. None of that means he won't be okay. But you need to be prepared." She wasn't prepared. Would never be prepared. But the baby was coming anyway. Another contraction hit, the strongest yet. Elena's entire body seized, every muscle contracting at once. She heard herself making sounds she didn't recognize. Animal sounds, desperate and raw. "That's it," Reeves encouraged. "Breathe through it. You're doing great." She wasn't doing great. She was falling apart. But she didn't have a choice. The next hour blurred into an endless cycle of pain and pressure and the overwhelming need to push, even though Reeves kept telling her not yet. Wait, just a little longer. Then suddenly, it was time. 10 centimeters, Reeves said. Next contraction, you push. Hard as you can. Elena grabbed the sheets, her knuckles white. I can't do this. You can. You are. Mrs. Chen's hand found hers. You're the strongest person I know, Miss Hayes. You survived 7 months alone. You survived Mr. Viscari finding you. You can survive this. The contraction hit like a freight train. Elena pushed, her entire world narrowing to that single imperative. Push, breathe, push again. Good, Reeves said. I can see the head. One more like that. She didn't think she had one more in her, didn't think her body could take it. But the baby was coming. Adrian's son. Their son. She pushed until her vision went dark around the edges, and then suddenly the pressure released. A thin, weak cry filled the room. It's a boy, Reeves said, but Elena already knew that. He's breathing. That's good. That's very good. She tried to see him, tried to catch a glimpse of her son. But Reeves was already moving, the baby wrapped in towels, rushing toward the incubator they'd set up in the corner. Is he okay? Elena's voice was hoarse. Please, is he okay? He's breathing on his own. That's the most important thing right now. Reeves worked quickly, efficiently. He's small, 4 pounds maybe, but he's fighting. 4 pounds, so tiny, so vulnerable. Elena tried to sit up. Mrs. Chen pushed her back down gently. You need to rest. Let the doctor work. I need to see him. In a minute. Let doctor. Reeves make sure he's stable first. But she could hear him. Her son. Crying weakly, but crying. Alive. Tears streamed down her face. Relief. Terror. Exhaustion. Everything hitting at once. Down the hall she heard movement. Voices raised in alarm. Then Adrian's voice, rough and angry and desperate. Where is she? Where's Elena? Footsteps in the hallway, running. Marco's voice trying to reason with him. The door burst open. Adrian stood there, one hand pressed to his bandaged side, his face gray with pain and blood loss and the sheer force of will keeping him upright. His eyes found Elena first, then shifted to where Reeves worked over the incubator. Is he... Adrian couldn't finish the question. He's alive, Elena said. He's breathing. He's... Her voice broke. Adrian crossed the room in 3 unsteady steps. Marco tried to stop him. Adrian shoved him off without looking, his entire focus on the incubator. Reeves stepped back, letting Adrian see. The baby was so small, red and wrinkled and impossibly tiny beneath the warming lights. Wires connected to his chest, monitoring his heart rate. An oxygen mask covered half his face, but his eyes were open, dark, unfocused, searching. Adrian's hand came up to the glass, trembling. He's beautiful, he whispered. Elena had never heard his voice sound like that. Broken, awed, completely undone. He needs to stay in the incubator for now, Reeves said quietly. His temperature regulation isn't stable yet, but he's holding his own, breathing without assistance. That's more than I hoped for at 32 weeks. Can I... Adrian looked at the doctor. Can I touch him? Through the ports, carefully. Adrian's hands disappeared into the incubator through the small openings designed for exactly this. His fingers, stained with violence, scarred from years of brutality, touched his son for the first time with infinite gentleness. The baby's tiny hand curled around Adrian's finger. And the most dangerous man Elena had ever known started to cry. Elena had never seen Adrian Viscari cry. Not when his mother died. Not when rivals tried to kill him. Not even in the quiet moments after they'd made love when vulnerability crept in around the edges of his carefully constructed armor. But watching him stand at that incubator with tears streaming down his face, his finger held captive by a grip no stronger than a whisper, something fundamental shifted in the room. In him. In everything. He's so small, Adrian said. His voice was wrecked. Jesus, Elena, he's so small. 4 pounds, Reeves confirmed. But his vitals are stable, heart rate strong, oxygen levels holding. For a 32-weeker, he's doing remarkably well. Adrian didn't look away from his son. Couldn't seem to. His other hand was pressed against his bandaged side, blood seeping through the white gauze, but he didn't acknowledge the pain. Didn't acknowledge anything except the tiny human being gripping his finger like a lifeline. You're bleeding again, Elena said. Her own exhaustion was crushing. Every muscle ached. Her body felt hollowed out. But seeing Adrian standing when he should be in bed made her chest tight with fear. You need to sit down before you fall down. I'm fine. You're bleeding through your bandages and you can barely stand. She tried to push herself up. Mrs. Chen's hand stopped her gently. Adrian, please. I need to see him. His eyes finally met hers, red-rimmed, desperate. I need to make sure he's real, that he's here, that you're both okay. We're okay. But you won't be if you don't let Marco get you back to bed. Marco hovered near the door, clearly torn between following orders and physically dragging his boss out of the room. She's right. You're going to tear the stitches. Reeves, tell him. The doctor looked between Adrian and Elena, then sighed. Bring a chair. If he won't leave, at least we can keep him from bleeding out on the floor. Someone produced a chair. Adrian sank into it like his legs had been waiting for permission to give out, but his hand stayed in the incubator, his fingers still wrapped in that impossibly small grip. Does he have a name? Mrs. Chen asked softly. Elena and Adrian looked at each other. They'd never discussed it, never planned for this moment. She'd tried not to think about the baby as a person with a name and a future, and Adrian had been absent for 7 months of the pregnancy that should have included those conversations. Lucien, Adrian said. Not a question, a statement. Lucien Vescari. The name settled into the space between them. Elena turned it over in her mind, testing the weight of it. Lucien, light. It felt wrong for a child born into darkness, into violence, into a world where his father killed people and his mother had tried to run. But looking at the baby, at Lucien, fighting to breathe in his plastic fortress, the name felt less like irony and more like hope. Lucien, she repeated. Okay, Lucien. Adrian's expression softened. You like it? I don't know yet. Ask me again when he's not hooked up to a dozen machines. Reeves moved between them, checking monitors, adjusting settings Elena didn't understand. His temperature is stabilizing. That's good. The next 24 hours are critical. If he can maintain his breathing without assistance, if his temperature stays regulated, if he can tolerate feeding, those are the benchmarks we're looking for. And if he can't? Adrian's voice was flat, dangerous in a different way than usual. Then we deal with complications as they arise. But Mr. Vescari, I need to be clear with you both. This baby needs hospital care, real NICU support. I've done what I can here, but if something goes wrong, if his lungs start to fail or he develops an infection, I don't have the equipment to save him. No hospitals. Adrian didn't even hesitate. Too exposed, too many ways for someone to get to him. He could die. He'll definitely die if the Calabrese family finds out where he is. Adrian's hand tightened around Lucien's finger. You keep him alive here. Whatever you need, equipment, specialists, staff, I'll get it. Money's not an issue, but he doesn't leave this house until I know it's safe. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to insist they do what was best for Lucien regardless of the danger, but she'd seen the blood on Adrian's shirt, had felt the contractions trigger the moment he walked through the door bleeding and barely conscious. The world outside these walls wanted to hurt them, all of them. I'll need another incubator, Reeves said finally. Better monitoring equipment, a respiratory therapist on call. And if his condition deteriorates even slightly, we're calling an ambulance. Non-negotiable. Fine. Adrian swayed slightly. Marco's hand shot out to steady him. Get whatever you need. Starting with you back in bed before you pass out. Reeves pointed at the door. You're no good to your son dead. Go. I'll monitor him through the night. For a moment, Elena thought Adrian would refuse. His entire body was locked in resistance, every instinct screaming at him to stay close to his son. Then Lucien's hand slipped free of his finger, and the fight went out of Adrian all at once. I'll be down the hall, he told the baby, told Elena. Anything changes, anything at all, you wake me up. I will, Reeves promised. Marco and another guard practically carried Adrian out. Elena heard his protests echoing down the hallway until a door closed and cut them off. The room felt suddenly quiet. Just her and Mrs. Chen and Reeves and the tiny life fighting in the incubator. You should rest too, Reeves said, checking her vitals. You just gave birth. Your body needs recovery time. I can't sleep. Not while he's... She gestured at Lucien. What if something happens? Then I'll be right here to handle it. But Miss Hayes, you're no good to him exhausted either. He helped her settle back against the pillows. A few hours, that's all I'm asking. Her body made the decision for her. The moment she stopped fighting the exhaustion, it crashed over her like a wave. Her eyes closed despite her best efforts to keep them open. The last thing she saw before sleep took her was Lucien's chest rising and falling beneath the warming lights. Tiny, fragile, alive. She woke to sunlight and the sound of quiet voices. Reeves was talking to someone near the incubator. Elena blinked the sleep from her eyes, her body screaming in protest as she tried to sit up. Easy. Mrs. Chen appeared with pillows, helping her adjust. You've been asleep for 6 hours. 6 hours. Elena's heart lurched. Lucien, he's stable. Dr. Reeves has been monitoring him all night. The housekeeper's smile was genuine. He's a fighter, that one. Elena looked toward the incubator. Lucien looked exactly the same, still small, still wired to machines, still struggling, but the monitors showed steady numbers. His chest rose and fell in a rhythm that seemed stronger than before. Has Adrian been in? 3 times, doctor. Reeves keeps sending him back to bed. Mrs. Chen shook her head. Stubborn men, both of them. How is he? Adrian? Healing. The wound is clean. No infection. He'll recover. She set a tray on the bedside table. You need to eat. Keep your strength up. Dr. Reeves said you can try nursing in a few hours if Lucien's condition continues to improve. The thought of nursing felt surreal. She'd spent 7 months trying not to think of the baby as real, and now he was here, breathing, existing, needing her in ways she had no idea how to provide. She picked at the food. Her body needed it, but her stomach was still twisted with anxiety. Every beep from the monitors made her flinch. Every slight change in Lucien's breathing made her heart stop. Reeves finished his examination and came to check on her. You're healing well. No excessive bleeding. Blood pressure is coming down. How's the pain? Manageable. Everything hurt, but it was distant pain. Background noise compared to the fear of watching her son fight for every breath. I can give you something if you need it. No, I want to stay alert in case... She couldn't finish the sentence. He's doing better than I expected, Reeves said gently. His temperature regulated overnight. He's had 2 successful feedings through the tube. His oxygen saturation is holding steady. These are all very good signs. But he's still premature, still vulnerable. The next few days will tell us a lot about his long-term prognosis. The doctor's expression was kind but honest. I won't lie to you, Miss Hayes. There could be complications, lung development, infection, feeding difficulties, but every hour he holds steady is an hour closer to going home healthy. Going home. As if this fortress was home now, as if she'd already decided to stay. The door opened. Adrian appeared, moving slowly but under his own power. He looked terrible, pale, exhausted, pain etched in every line of his face. But he was walking, standing. You're supposed to be resting, Reeves said. I am resting. In here, where I can see them. Adrian moved to the incubator, his hand sliding into the port automatically. Any changes? All positive. He's stable. Some of the tension in Adrian's shoulders eased. Can she hold him yet? Reeves hesitated. Not yet. His temperature regulation is still fragile, maybe this afternoon if he continues to improve. I want her to hold him. Not a request, an order barely disguised as conversation. And I want him to survive the next 48 hours. So we're going to be cautious. Reeves stood his ground. You hired me to keep them both alive, Mr. Vescari. Let me do my job. Adrian's jaw tightened, but he nodded. His finger traced gentle patterns on Lucien's palm. The baby's hand twitched in response, and something in Adrian's expression cracked open again. He moved, he said. Did you see that? He knows I'm here. Probably just a reflex, Reeves said, but his smile suggested otherwise. Elena watched Adrian with their son and felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't the man who'd killed Marcus in cold blood. Wasn't the ruthless crime boss who dragged her from the diner against her will. This was someone new, someone she'd never seen before. This was a father. "You should eat something," she said. "You look like hell." "You're one to talk." But Adrian moved to sit in the chair beside her bed, his hand still in the incubator. "Mrs. Chen brought breakfast. I can't stomach it. You need to try. Your body needs fuel to heal." "Sounds like something I said to you yesterday." "And I was right then, and I'm right now." His laugh was soft, tired. "Fair enough." Mrs. Chen appeared with another tray. Adrian picked at toast he clearly had no interest in while watching Lucien with the intensity of someone memorizing every detail. The day passed in slow increments. Reeves checked Lucien every hour. The nurses Adrian had somehow procured overnight came and went quietly, monitoring equipment, adjusting settings, speaking in soft voices that didn't disturb the fragile peace. Elena dozed in fits and starts. Every time she woke, Adrian was there. Sometimes in the chair beside her, sometimes at the incubator. Once she found him asleep sitting up, his head tilted back against the wall, one hand still through the port, touching his son. She didn't wake him, didn't point out that he should be in his own bed. He looked younger asleep, less dangerous, almost peaceful. By evening, Reeves declared Lucien stable enough for skin-to-skin contact. "Just a few minutes," he cautioned, "and we'll need to monitor him closely." They moved Elena to the rocking chair. Reeves opened the incubator carefully, his hands gentle as he lifted Lucien free of the wires and tubes. The baby was so light, so impossibly small against his palms. Then he placed Lucien on Elena's bare chest, and the world stopped. She'd carried him for 7 months, felt him kick and roll and fight inside her. But this was different. This was real in a way nothing else had been. His skin was warm against hers. His heart beat fast and rabbit-quick. His tiny fingers curled into fists against her collarbone. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi, baby. I'm your mom." Tears streamed down her face. She couldn't stop them, didn't want to. Adrian stood beside the chair, his hand on her shoulder, looking down at them both with an expression she couldn't name. Wonder, terror, love so fierce it was almost violent. "He's perfect," Adrian said. "He's tiny and premature and hooked to machines." "He's perfect," Adrian repeated. His hand moved to cup Lucien's head. His palm dwarfed the baby's skull. "Look at him, Elena. He's ours." Ours. The words settled between them. A claim. A promise. A future neither of them had planned but couldn't escape. Lucien made a small sound. Not quite a cry. Just a noise that said he knew his parents were there. "He knows your voice, Tish," Adrian said. "Reeves said they can recognize their mother's voice from the womb." "Then he probably recognizes yours too. I yelled at you enough while I was pregnant." Adrian's laugh was soft. "Yeah, you did." His thumb traced gentle circles on Lucien's back. "I'm sorry for all of it, for scaring you, for making you run, for not being there when you needed me. You didn't know I was pregnant. I should have been paying better attention, should have noticed you were pulling away." He crouched beside the chair so they were eye level. "I'm not going to make those mistakes again, with either of you." Elena wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this version of Adrian, gentle, devoted, broken open by fatherhood, was real and lasting. But she'd seen the other version too. The cold calculation, the violence, the man who put bullets in people and slept fine afterward. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted, "how to reconcile who you are with, who you're trying to be." "Then don't. Just stay. Give me a chance to prove I can keep the darkness away from you both, from him especially." Adrian's hand covered hers where it rested on Lucien's back. "I meant what I said. He'll never see that side of me. Never be part of that world. I'll build walls around him so high nothing gets through." Walls didn't keep me safe. I still saw, still knew. Because I was careless. I won't be careless again. His eyes held hers. "Elena, I love you. I've loved you since the night you told me I was full of shit in that restaurant and laughed when I tried to intimidate you. And now," he looked at Lucien, "now I love him more than I thought it was possible to love anything. So I'm asking you, please, stay. Let me protect you both. Let me be what you need me to be." I need you to be safe. I need you to stop getting shot. Working on it. I need you to understand that I'm terrified. Of you. Of this world. Of raising a child in the middle of all your violence. I know. And I need you to give me time to figure out if I can live with what you are. Adrian's expression tightened. Pain flashed across his face, but he nodded. How much time? I don't know. However long it takes. And until then? Until then, we focus on him. She looked down at Lucien. On keeping him alive, keeping him safe. The rest, we'll figure it out as we go. It wasn't a declaration of love, wasn't forgiveness or acceptance or any of the things Adrian probably wanted, but it was something, a start, a maybe. Adrian stood, his hand lingering on Lucien's head for one more moment. I'll take it. Whatever you can give me, Elena. I'll take it. Reeves appeared to reclaim the baby after 15 minutes of skin-to-skin contact. Lucien went back into the incubator without complaint, his vital signs strong, his tiny body already more stable than before. That went well? The doctor said. We'll try again tomorrow, build up his tolerance gradually. The next 3 days followed the same pattern. Elena would hold Lucien for short stretches. Adrian would stand guard at the incubator when she couldn't. Reeves monitored every breath, every heartbeat, every small victory. Lucien grew stronger. Not fast, not dramatically. But inch by inch, hour by hour, he fought his way toward survival. By day 4, he was breathing entirely on his own. No oxygen assistance, just his small lungs doing the work they were born too early to handle. By day 5, he was taking bottles. Tiny amounts, but enough to sustain him. By day 7, Reeves declared him stable enough to leave the incubator for longer periods. Adrian hardly left the room. He should have been running his empire, dealing with the fallout from the Calabrese meeting, handling whatever business required his attention. Instead, he delegated everything to Marco and spent his days watching his son breathe. Elena saw the change in him, the way he moved more carefully, like sudden violence might shatter something precious, the way he spoke softer, aware that his voice carried weight that could crush. The way he looked at Lucien like the baby was a miracle he didn't deserve but would kill to protect. Late one night, she woke to find Adrian's chair empty. Panic seized her until she heard his voice, low, careful, coming from near the incubator. I don't know how to do this, he was saying. Be your dad. Be someone worth looking up to. Your mom thinks I'm a monster. She's probably right, but I'm going to try anyway. Going to try to be better. For you. Elena stayed still, pretending to sleep, listening. You're going to have everything I didn't, Adrian continued. Safety, stability, a father who comes home at night. I'm going to make sure of it, even if it means walking away from everything I've built, even if it means becoming someone I don't recognize. His voice roughened. I killed a man the day before you were born, put 3 bullets in him because he tried to shoot me at a meeting I thought was safe. And I didn't feel anything, didn't hesitate. That's who I am, Lucien. That's what I've become. Silence, then a shaky breath. But when I hold you, when your hand wraps around my finger, I feel everything, too much. It scares the hell out of me how much I love you, how much I'd destroy to keep you safe. Footsteps. Adrian moving closer to the incubator. Your mom's right to be scared, right to question whether I can be what you need. But I'm going to prove her wrong, going to prove I can be both. The man who protects you from the world, and the man who keeps the world from seeing what he has to do to make that happen. Elena's chest ached. She wanted to go to him, wanted to tell him he didn't have to carry this alone. But she stayed quiet. Let him have this moment with his son. Let him say the things he couldn't say when she was awake. I love you, Adrian whispered. More than anything, more than power, more than empire, more than my own life. You and your mom, you're everything now, and I'm going to keep you safe, no matter what it costs me. He stayed there for another hour, just watching Lucien sleep. When he finally came back to bed, carefully, trying not to wake Elena, she pretended she'd been asleep the whole time, but she'd heard every word, and something in her chest that had been locked tight since the night she ran started to crack open. Maybe Adrian could change. Maybe fatherhood would reshape him into something gentler. Maybe love was enough to sand down the sharp edges of violence he carried. Or maybe she was lying to herself. making excuses, choosing to believe in a fantasy because the alternative, raising Lucien alone, always looking over her shoulder, was worse. She didn't know, didn't have answers. But watching Adrian with their son, seeing the tenderness in hands built for destruction, she thought maybe, just maybe, there was a version of this that didn't end in blood and tears. A version where they survived, together. Where Lucien grew up safe and loved and never knew what his father had to become to make that possible. It was a fragile hope, barely a whisper. But it was something. And for now, that was enough. 2 weeks after Lucien's birth, Elena woke to an empty house. Not literally empty. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen, the nurses were monitoring equipment, guards patrolled the grounds. But Adrian's chair beside her bed was vacant for the first time since she'd gone into labor. The absence felt wrong, unsettling. She found him in his office, phone pressed to his ear, his voice that familiar cold she hadn't heard in days. I don't care what his excuses are. The shipment was light by 30%. Either he pays what he owes, or we have a problem. A pause. No. No more extensions. This ends today. He looked up, saw her in the doorway, and something in his expression shifted. Not quite softening, more like remembering there was a version of himself he was trying to be. Handle it, he said into the phone, then hung up. You weren't there when I woke up, Elena said. I know. I'm sorry. Marco needed... He stopped himself. Doesn't matter. How's Lucien? Still sleeping. Reeves says his weight is up, almost 5 pounds now. Pride flickered across Adrian's face. He's getting stronger. He is. But Adrian... She moved into the room, closing the door behind her. You can't avoid your business forever. I know you've been delegating everything, but eventually you're going to have to go back to... She gestured vaguely. Whatever it is you do. I'm managing it from here. That's not sustainable. Your people need you visible. Need to know you're still in control. His jaw tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying I see what you're doing, trying to keep that world separate from us. But you can't just disappear. Someone will see it as weakness. Will try to take what's yours. Let them try. And then what? Another shootout? Another ambush? More blood? She crossed her arms. I don't want Lucien growing up in a war zone because you're trying to protect him from what you are. Adrian stood, moving around the desk. Then what do you want me to do? Keep running my empire the way I always have? Bring that darkness into this house? I want you to be smart about it. Strategic. Find a way to maintain control without putting all of us, at constant risk. There's no safe way to do what I do, Elena. You know that. Then maybe it's time to consider doing something else. The words hung between them. Heavy. Impossible. Adrian laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want me to just walk away? From everything I've built? Everything my family built before me? I want you to think about what kind of father you want to be. What kind of life you want Lucien to have. She held his gaze. Because right now, you're trying to be 2 people at once, and eventually, something's going to break. I can handle it. Can you? Because I watched you almost bleed out on a kitchen table 2 weeks ago. Watched our son born 2 months early because your world followed us home. Her voice cracked. How many more times, Adrian? How many more close calls before one of them sticks? He had no answer for that. The silence stretched until Elena couldn't stand it anymore. She turned to leave. My father told me once that this life doesn't let you go, Adrian said quietly. That once you're in until someone puts you in the ground or the feds put you in a cage. She stopped, her hand on the doorknob. He was right. I've seen men try to get out, seen them think they could walk away clean. It never works. Their enemies come for them. Their former associates come for them. Everyone they ever wrong sees an opportunity. He moved closer. If I step back, if I show any weakness, it's open season. On me, on you, on Lucien. So what's your solution? Keep doing what you're doing and hope you don't die before he's old enough to remember you? My solution is to be more careful, make better choices, eliminate threats before they become problems. His hands settled on her shoulders. I'm not walking away from you and Lucien. But I'm not walking away from what keeps you safe either. That's not what keeps us safe, you being alive. That's what keeps us safe. Then I'll stay alive. He said it like a promise he could keep through will alone. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to make him see that violence and protection weren't the same thing. But she'd seen his world, knew how it worked, knew that men like Adrian didn't retire to Florida and play golf. They died in warehouses, in restaurants, in their own beds when they let their guard down for 1 second too long. I'm scared, she admitted. All the time. Every time you leave this room, I'm scared you won't come back. I know. His forehead touched hers. I'm scared too. Just different things. I'm scared I'll fail you, that I'll mess this up so badly you'll take Lucien and run again, that one day he'll be old enough to understand what I am and he'll hate me for it. Then change, before it's too late. I'm trying. His voice was rough, but I don't know how to be anyone except who I am. You're already different. With him. With me. I see it. She pulled back to look at him. You just have to decide which version of yourself matters more. Footsteps in the hallway. Marco's voice calling for Adrian. It never stops, Adrian muttered. No, it doesn't. That's my point. He kissed her forehead, then went to deal with whatever crisis couldn't wait. Elena made her way back to Lucien, who was awake and fussing in his bassinet. Reeves had graduated him from the incubator 3 days ago. She picked him up, marveling at how much heavier he felt already. 5 pounds of angry baby who wanted to eat and didn't care that the world was complicated. Your father's an idiot, she told him. A well-meaning idiot, but still. Lucien's response was to root against her chest, demanding food with the single-minded intensity of someone who'd fought hard to exist and wasn't about to be ignored. She settled into the rocking chair and started nursing. It had taken days to figure out, painful days of frustration and tears and Lucien's increasingly angry cries. But they'd gotten the hang of it eventually. Now it was almost peaceful. Just her and her son, and the quiet understanding that whatever else was broken in her life, this worked. Mrs. Chen appeared with tea Elena hadn't asked for, but appreciated anyway. Mr. Vescari seems troubled, the housekeeper observed. He's always troubled. That's his default state. More than usual, I mean, since the baby came. She busied herself straightening things that didn't need straightening. He doesn't know how to be gentle, how to be soft. His father never showed him that. You knew his father? I worked for the family for 20 years. I watched Adrian grow up, watched him become, she paused, choosing words carefully. What he needed to become to survive. And what's that? Hard, unforgiving, the kind of man people fear more than they respect. Mrs. Chen's expression was sad. But he's trying to be something different now. For you, for the baby. I see it in how he moves around you both. Like you're made of glass and he's afraid his touch will shatter you. Elena looked down at Lucien, his tiny hand curled against her breast, his eyes closed in contentment. I don't want him to be afraid of himself, she said. I want him to actually change, to choose us over everything else. That's a lot to ask of a man who's never chosen anything except survival. He's a father now. That requires different choices. Mrs. Chen smiled. Yes, it does. The question is whether he's capable of making them. That was the question, the one Elena couldn't answer. The days blurred together. Lucien grew stronger. Adrian divided his time between their room and his office, managing his empire through phone calls and encrypted messages, trying to maintain control without leaving the house. It couldn't last. Elena knew that. The breaking point came 3 weeks after Lucien's birth. Marco appeared in the doorway, his face grim. We have a situation. Adrian was holding Lucien, the baby asleep against his chest, his expression more peaceful than Elena had seen in days. The intrusion shattered it instantly. What kind of situation? The Irish. They hit one of our warehouses on the docks, killed 3 of our guys, took the merchandise. Marco's voice was tight. They're saying it's retaliation for you ducking out of the game, that you've gone soft. That territory's up for grabs now. Elena watched Adrian's expression harden. The gentle father disappeared, replaced by the man she'd run from. How long ago? 2 hours? I've got crews mobilizing, but they're waiting for you. They want to know what the play is. Adrian looked down at Lucien. then at Elena. She could see the war happening behind his eyes. Stay or go. Father or boss. Safety or control. Go, she said quietly. Elena, you have to. If you don't, this gets worse. More people die. And eventually, it comes here. She stood, taking Lucian from his arms carefully. But Adrian, you come back. You don't be stupid. You don't take unnecessary risks. You handle this and you come home to your son. Something in his expression cracked. I don't want to leave you. I know, but you don't have a choice, not really. She settled Lucian in his bassinet. Just promise me you'll be careful. I promise. He kissed her, hard, desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of something he might lose. Then he was gone, Marco at his side, and Elena was alone with the baby and the crushing certainty that this was their life now, would always be their life. Stolen moments between crises, peace interrupted by violence, love built on the foundation of fear. She lasted 20 minutes before the anxiety became unbearable. Reeves found her pacing the hallway, Lucian asleep in her arms, her phone clutched in her free hand. He'll be fine, the doctor said. You don't know that. I know he survived this long. I know he's got every reason to be careful now. He nodded at Lucy, Yan. That baby changed everything. Did it? Or did it just give Adrian more to lose? Reeves didn't have an answer for that. The hours crawled by. Elena tried to sleep, tried to eat, tried to focus on anything except the silence from Adrian's phone. Mrs. Chen brought dinner she couldn't stomach. The guards changed shifts. Lucian woke, ate, slept, blissfully unaware that his father was somewhere in the city doing things that might get him killed. Midnight came and went, then 2 a.m., 3. At 4:30 in the morning, Elena heard the front door open. Footsteps, voices. She was out of bed before she consciously decided to move, Lucian bundled in her arms, rushing down the stairs. Adrian stood in the foyer, blood on his hands, on his shirt, but standing, breathing, alive. Their eyes met across the distance. It's done, he said. His voice was flat, empty. The Irish won't be a problem anymore. Elena didn't ask what he'd done, didn't want to know. She just walked to him, careful of Lucian between them, and let Adrian wrap his arms around them both. He was shaking, slight tremors running through his entire body like aftershocks. I killed 4 men tonight, he whispered against her hair. Went into their safe house and executed them one by one. Made sure everyone knew what happens when they come after what's mine. Adrian and I felt nothing. Nothing except the need to get back here. To you and Lucian. His arms tightened. What does that make me? Human, she said. Broken, maybe, but human. I don't know how to be what you need and what they need. The admission was raw. I don't know how to protect you from the world and from myself. Then stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to keep everything separate. She pulled back to look at him. I know what you are, Adrian. I've always known. The question is whether you can be that and still be a good father, whether you can do terrible things and come home and be gentle with your son. Can I? I don't know, but we're going to find out. She shifted Lucian in her arms. Because I'm not running anymore. And you're not hiding who you are from me. We're doing this together, all of it, the good and the terrible and everything in between. Something in Adrian's expression broke open. Relief, gratitude, love so fierce it was almost painful to witness. I don't deserve you, he said. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway. She managed a tired smile. Now go shower. You're covered in blood, and our son doesn't need to wake up to that. He went. When he came back 20 minutes later, clean and exhausted, Elena was in bed with Lucian between them. The baby stirred, his tiny hand reaching out instinctively. Adrian's finger found it, that same gentle grip that had become their ritual. I talked to Marco, he said quietly. We're restructuring, delegating more. I'm pulling back from day-to-day operations, staying more focused on strategy than execution. Will that work? It'll have to, because I meant what I said. You and Lucien, you're everything now, and I'm not missing his life because I'm too busy protecting it. It wasn't a perfect solution. Wasn't redemption or transformation or any fairy tale ending, but it was something, a compromise. A step toward the kind of life where Lucian could grow up knowing his father, where Elena didn't spend every night wondering if Adrian would come home. The weeks turned into months. Lucian's grew, hit milestones that made Reeves smile with relief. His weight climbing, his lungs growing stronger, his development catching up to where it should be. Adrian kept his promise. He restructured, delegated, made himself less central to the daily violence his empire required. He still made hard decisions, still did terrible things when necessary, but he came home every night, held his son, talked to Elena like she was the only thing anchoring him to humanity. It wasn't perfect. They fought about his work, about safety, about what kind of life they were giving Lucian. Sometimes Elena still thought about running, still wondered if this was sustainable. But then she'd watch Adrian with their son, reading to him even though Lucian was too young to understand, singing off-key lullabies, his dangerous hands impossibly gentle. And she'd remember why she stayed. Not because Adrian had changed completely. He hadn't. He was still violent, still ruthless when he needed to be. But he was trying. And in a world where men like him rarely tried to be anything except what they'd always been, that mattered. 6 months after Lucian's birth, Adrian found Elena in the nursery they'd finally set up. Lucien was asleep in his crib, a real crib now, not an incubator or bassinet, just a normal baby in a normal room that happened to be in a house with armed guards and bulletproof windows. "I want to ask you something," Adrian said. Elena looked up from the book she'd been reading. "Okay." He crossed the room, knelt beside her chair, and pulled out a small box. Her breath caught. "I know this isn't traditional. I know we did everything backwards. Baby first, relationship second, trust maybe somewhere down the line." His smile was crooked, nervous. "But Elena, I want to marry you. Not because of Lucien, not because it makes sense, but because I love you. Because you see what I am and you stayed anyway. Because you make me want to be better than I thought I could be." He opened the box. The ring inside was simple, elegant, nothing like the ostentatious jewelry she'd expected. "I'm never going to be a good man," he continued. "I'm never going to stop doing the things I do. But I can be a good husband, a good father, the man you and Lucien need me to be when I'm home, the man who protects you from everything, including myself." Elena's eyes burned. "That's a hell of a proposal. Is it working?" She looked at the ring, at Adrian kneeling before her like she held his entire future in her hands, at Lucien sleeping peacefully in his crib, unaware that his parents were making decisions that would shape his whole life. She thought about the diner, the apartment, the 7 months she'd spent running. She thought about the fear, the loneliness, the bone-deep exhaustion of trying to survive alone. And she thought about this, the complicated, messy, dangerous life Adrian offered, where she'd never be safe but she'd never be alone, where their son would grow up with a father who'd kill for him but also read him bedtime stories, where love and violence coexisted in ways that shouldn't work but somehow did. "Yes," she said. Adrian's expression transformed. "Yeah?" "Yeah." She let him slide the ring onto her finger. "But I have conditions." "Name them." "Lucien doesn't grow up in this world. He doesn't know what you do. He gets a normal childhood, private school, friends who aren't the children of criminals, a life separate from all of this." "Done. What else?" "You don't take stupid risks. You don't be a hero. You delegate. You stay alive." Her voice cracked. "Because I can handle a lot, Adrian, but I can't handle losing you. You won't." He pulled her down to the floor with him, his arms around her. "I promise you won't." It was a promise he couldn't guarantee. They both knew that. But he meant it, and for now, that was enough. They got married 3 months later. Small ceremony, just family. Marco stood as best man, Mrs. Chen cried through the whole thing. Lucien babbled happily from his seat in the front row, too young to understand but present anyway. Elena wore white. Adrian wore a suit without bloodstains. They exchanged vows that promised love and protection and honesty about the darkness they both carried. It wasn't perfect. Nothing about their life was perfect, but it was theirs. A year after Lucien's birth, Elena stood in the nursery watching her son, 14 months old now, pulling himself up on furniture, babbling words that almost made sense, and marveled at how far they'd come. Adrian appeared in the doorway, home early for once, his jacket already off and his sleeves rolled up. "How is he?" "Destructive. He figured out how to open the toy box." "That's my boy." Adrian moved to scoop Lucien up. The toddler squealed with delight, his hands grabbing his father's face. "Hey, troublemaker, you giving Mom a hard time?" Lucien's response was to laugh and pull Adrian's hair. Elena watched them together, her son healthy and happy, her husband gentle in ways he was with no one else, and felt something settle in her chest. This was family, complicated and flawed and built on foundations that would horrify most people. But it was real, and it was theirs. "I got a call today," Adrian said, settling Lucien on his hip. "Marco's handling the territory dispute. He doesn't need me." "That's good." "Yeah, thought maybe I could take a few days, stay home, spend time with you and this guy." He tickled Lucien's stomach, earning another laugh. "If that's okay." More than okay. And it was, because this was what they'd built. Moments of peace carved out of violence, safety constructed from danger, love that existed despite everything it shouldn't survive. Adrian Vescari was still a criminal. Still dangerous, still the kind of man who solved problems with bullets more often than words, but he was also a husband who came home to his family, a father who read bedtime stories and changed diapers and worried about things like teething and first words. And Elena had learned that people weren't one thing or another. They were contradictions, capable of terrible acts and tender moments, of violence and gentleness, of being monsters to the world and heroes to their children. She'd run from Adrian because she couldn't reconcile those contradictions, couldn't accept that the man who killed could also love. But she'd learned that love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone willing to try, someone who'd look at their worst self and choose to be better for the people who mattered. Adrian would never be a good man by conventional standards, would never walk away from his empire completely, would always carry darkness. But he was good to her, good to Lucien, good in the ways that counted when you stripped away everything else. And in the end, that was what mattered. Not the fairy tale, not the redemption arc, not the clean transformation from villain to hero. Just a man trying to be better than he was, a woman choosing to believe in that effort, and a child growing up loved by both of them. It was messy, complicated, dangerous in ways most people would never understand, but it was real. And real was enough. That night, after Lucien was asleep and the house was quiet, Adrian found Elena on the terrace. The city sprawled below them, millions of lights marking millions of lives, all of them simpler than theirs. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How strange this all is. How I never planned for any of it." "Regrets?" She considered the question honestly. "Sometimes. When I think about the diner and how simple it was. When I remember what it felt like to not be afraid all the time. But then I look at Lucien, at you, at the life we're building, and I think maybe the best things are the ones we never planned for." She leaned into him. "Maybe love is supposed to be terrifying. Maybe that's how you know it matters." Adrian's arm came around her. "I'm still terrified I'll screw this up, that I'll fail you both somehow." "You will, probably multiple times." She smiled at his expression. "But I'll screw up too. We'll both make mistakes. The question is whether we keep trying anyway." "I'm going to keep trying, every day, for as long as you'll let me." "Then I guess you're stuck with me." Best sentence I've ever heard. They stood together watching the city, and Elena thought about all the choices that had led to this moment. Running from Adrian, him finding her, Lucien being born too early, all the fear and pain and impossible decisions. She wouldn't wish it on anyone, wouldn't recommend falling in love with a dangerous man or raising a child in the shadow of violence. But it was her life, their life, and despite everything, despite the fear and the danger and all the reasons it shouldn't work, she wouldn't trade it, Because love wasn't about perfect circumstances or ideal conditions. It was about finding someone worth fighting for, worth staying for, worth choosing every day even when the choice was hard. Adrian Viscari was worth that choice, not because he was good, but because he was trying to be. And in a world full of people who never tried to be better than they were, that made all the difference. Behind them, through the window, Lucien stirred in his crib, not crying, just shifting in sleep, dreaming baby dreams about toys and sounds and the faces of the two people who'd fight the whole world to keep him safe. Elena went to check on him. Adrian followed. They stood together over the crib, watching their son breathe. "He looks like you," Adrian said softly. "He has your stubborn chin." "Poor kid," Elena laughed quietly. "He'll be fine. He's got both of us. That's more than most kids get." "Pa, yeah." Adrian's hand found hers in the dark. "Yeah, it is." And in that moment, standing in a nursery with bulletproof windows, watching their premature baby sleep, both of them scarred by choices they'd had to make, Elena Hayes Vescari understood something fundamental. Family wasn't about perfect people or ideal circumstances. It was about imperfect people choosing each other anyway, about love existing despite all the reasons it shouldn't, about building something worth protecting even when the cost was high. They'd started in fear and chaos. They'd survive on compromise and stubborn hope, but they'd survive, together. And that was the only ending that mattered.